Story RH, the podcast that makes a long story short.
Welcome to all.
History is made of stories.
In this episode, we'll be examining the link between employee engagement and company performance.
The link seems pretty obvious. If employees aren't invested in their work, bye-bye company performance. Not sure it's worth a whole episode.
Well, that's actually up for debate. Could the sum of individual performances actually add up to remarkable performance for the group? Does employee engagement necessarily translate into employee performance? It's not as obvious as it seems.
You're right, let's take a closer look. So, employee engagement and company performance, what's the story?
When you start to really look into the topic, 3 questions come to the fore. 1. What is individual employee engagement and how do we measure it? 2. What is company performance and how do we measure it? 3. Is there a cause and effect relationship between these two concepts or merely a correlation?
Let's start with the first question. Individual engagement is a combination of 3 aspects. It's individual motivation and emotional implication over time.
But this definition is limited. We're still left wondering, implication in what? In the company and its project, in your own day-to-day without concern for the overall project, in a meaningful social project outside of the company which is overly focused on a few short-term indicators.
Right, and there's also the overtime part. How long do you have to be engaged for it to count?
As you can see, it's not so easy to get to the bottom of a complicated concept like engagement. You have to ask the right questions before simply accepting the easy definition.
Especially since, even if we could fully define it, there's still the question of how to measure it. I seriously doubt that most companies' measurement tools can do so without introducing different biases.
And the same thing goes for the concept of company performance. It's hard to define and measure. What counts most when determining whether a company is successful? Short-term financial results, net sales, EBITDA, stock value, company image, customer satisfaction.
It's extremely difficult to define company performance without getting tunnel vision. A productivity indicator doesn't take value into consideration, and stock price is only distantly tied to a company's real value. Even sales, when taken out of context, fail to provide the full picture.
Exactly, and who does this performance benefit? Shareholders. What about coup models? The company itself and its long-term worth. What about its impact on society at large?
In short, carelessly throwing around the complex concept of company performance is also dangerous.
So we have 2 terms which are difficult to define and measure. That makes proving a cause and effect relationship all but impossible.
Maybe that's why few serious studies have tackled the topic as a whole. Several of them have narrowed the definition of both terms to ensure scientific rigor, but as a result, their conclusions are limited.
That's not what companies want, of course, which means they may be tempted to take shortcut by extrapolating the very partial results obtained.
So what's the answer?
Well, to use our common sense. Because, after all, if you look at it the opposite way, can a company be successful with disengaged employees? It's very clear that it's not the best option.
Actually, we're willing to go so far as to say that lack of employee engagement does not promote company performance.
But it's important not to assume that this means that engagement systematically enhances company performance.
To recap, it's very difficult to scientifically prove that employee engagement contributes to company performance. That said, it's based on an idea which we accept as true. Employee engagement definitely can't hurt a company's chances of success. That said, it's important not to misunderstand the concept of engagement. Is that right?
Exactly right. Way to make a long story short.
Story RH, the podcast that makes a long story short.